Hi guys, I just popped in real fast to do a multiplication strategies video with you. I've been thinking that if we're trying to memorize these multiplication facts, then maybe we need a little review on the strategies to get them solved. Because the fact is, if we don't have them memorized, then we still need to figure out that problem. And we need to remember the strategies in order to figure that out. So if you're having trouble memorizing those multiplication facts and you still need to work out your multiplication problems, totally fine. Use one of these strategies to do so, and the more and more you do it, the more familiar those facts will be, and the more you'll have them memorized. Also, guys, I put that musical multiplication memorization material up there for you. So many M's, sorry. But I put that up for you. Watch those songs, watch those videos. When I was your age, those songs are what helped me memorize my facts. So use them for your benefit to help you too, because the sooner you remember those facts, guys, the easier the rest of your math, multiplication, and things will be. So without talking too much about it, I'm going to go ahead and get right into reviewing these strategies. I'm going to go ahead and use 5 times 4 as my example problem for everyone we do. So the first one I'm going to start with is equal groups. So when you look at equal groups, you want to look at your first number, and that's going to be the amount of groups you make. So I want to make 5 groups. So I made 5 circles. Those are my groups. Then the second number is going to tell you how many goes in each one of those. So that means I have to put 4 dots in each one of those circles. And if you can't see those dots because I didn't make them very big, I put 4 in each. So now I just have to go through and count my dots. So I could count 4, 12, 4, 8, 12, what am I doing? 16, and then 20. So 4 times 5 must equal 20, because that's how many dots I have in each. The only time this doesn't work, guys, is when we get sloppy. And see how neat I put all 4 of each of my dots in there? So I can tell there's no more, no less. Sometimes when we get sloppy and we just put those dots in there really fast, we lose track of how many we've put in there, and sometimes we can't count them appropriately. So make sure you're keeping your dots neat when using equal groups. So that's 20. I did equal groups first, guys, because if you've got these multiplication facts down and you said, I know how to do this, Miss Sauer, maybe you're ready for division. Equal groups is the easiest one to switch to division. It's typically what we use and what we were using to start division. So I'm just going to flip this problem around. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to start with the 20, and I'm going to divide it by 4. So 20 divided by 4. And right away, I think we're thinking that looks like a big number. Not the case. When you're doing equal groups in division, the second number is going to be the group. So that's how many groups. With multiplication, it's the first number. Division, it's the second. So you need 4 groups, because that's how many you're dividing our whole into. So our whole number is 20, and we're trying to divide it into 4 groups. So now we can put 20 dots all throughout it, because it's our total. So that's where we're going to count. And I hope that now when I'm going to do this, you're sparking in your brain, oh yeah, this is what she's talking about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And see, when I did that, guys, I made sure my dots weren't messy. They were nice and clear. So when anyone looks in those circles, they can tell there's 5 in each circle. There's 5 in the first, 5 in the second, 5 in the third, 5 in the fourth. So that must mean 20 divided by 4 equals 5. And our commutative property tells us if we switch those, it's still the same. So then we can do 5 times 4 equals 20. That associative property tells us we can switch those around. As long as we keep the same fact family, we can switch it between multiplication and division to help us. So that's one strategy, equal groups. You can use it for multiplication, but it definitely comes in more handy when we're doing the division. The second strategy we're going to use, guys, is that array. This is the one where those drawing skills come into play. I said we're going to do 5 times 4 as our example problem. So let me put that back at the top, 5 times 4. An array works out really well, especially if you're trying to figure out area. Think area array almost. So an array is our drawing. I've put 4 along the top. And so down the side, I'm going to put 5. But don't let it trick you. We already have 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we made these out of our Fruit Loops, guys. Remember? We glued our Fruit Loops down, rolled the dice to get the numbers, and then glued our Fruit Loops into an array. So if you're trying to get a picture in your brain of what I'm talking about from our school year, that's when we did arrays. So remember that. I'm not done yet here. Still got to fill it in. So I've done 4 along the top, and I'm going to do 5 along the side. It doesn't matter if I decided to do 5 along the top and 4 along the side, as long as one of my numbers is on the top and one of my numbers comes along the side. I decided to do 5 and 4. Now I got to fill it in. I'm just going to go down my rows. And then it kind of becomes the same thing as equal groups, guys. I'm just going to count the dots. Just like that, circles, I guess. I'm going to count my circles, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now I know that 5 times 4 is 20 using my array. So this is another way that you can figure out a multiplication problem that maybe you don't have memorized yet, maybe we're unsure of, especially when our numbers start to get big. I know 5 times 4 seems easy, but if you guys have a bigger problem and you don't know those big numbers, the strategies are good to remember. Okay, so here's our array. And if I said it's like area, remember, if you're trying to find the space within, this is area. You're finding all your space within that object. And when we find area, remember, you just multiply the top times the side. So this would just be 4 times 5, which is 20. And our label would have to be square feet or square inches or square whatever it might be, because area gets squared. Erasing this. So we've done equal groups. We've done array. Now we're going to do repeated addition. And this is definitely the most popular one for us in our class. Talking to most of you, this is what I see that you do the most. So 5 times 4. Right away, we know our rule times 5, and I bet you guys have been screaming it at me this whole time. Miss Sauer, you can just count by 5s. And that's so easy because counting by 5s is so easy for us. We've been doing it since 1st grade, right? So we can count by 5s, just 5, 10, 15, 20. That's it. I counted by 5s 4 times. It's the same thing as repeated addition. It just seems easier with us because we've been counting by 5s for a long time. But repeated addition is just that. Repeatedly adding the same number, just like we added 5s. Let's try it with the 4s and see if it works the same. So instead of doing 5 4 times, I'm going to do 4 5 times. So 4 plus 4, that's twice, gives me 8. So I've only done it twice. Still need to do it 3 more times. 8 plus 4 is 12. Sorry, guys. An itch. And now I've only done it 3 times. Still got to go again, plus another 4. 16. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 4s. I still need 1 more. 16 plus 4 gives me 20. And that's my 5th 4. So that's just all I did. I just repeatedly added 4s until I got the amount of my first number. So I kept adding 4s until I've added them 5 times. So when I got 20, each time I've done a different strategy, guys, notice I continue to get 20 because they're all just different strategies of how to do the same thing and how to multiply. Whatever works best for you. No one's telling you to use one strategy or the other. Sometimes we might ask you to show one strategy, but when you're just trying to figure these problems out, use whatever strategy you want. And I will say to a lot of you when we're in those chats, because some of you are getting frustrated because it's taking you longer to know these multiplication facts. And I say, well, those other friends just have them memorized. And I've said that a couple times. Just because they've done them so many times, they've used these strategies so many times, maybe they've looked at that multiplication table a bunch, that they just know what they are. And hopefully that'll start happening to you when you practice and practice and practice and practice. So fingers crossed. The very last thing I wanted to talk about, guys, was that benchmark fraction. And I use the word, I'm sorry, not fraction, benchmark. I've used it before with fractions, but benchmarks are just things that help you to remember, I guess, to help you, like our benchmark fraction is a half. And that's because we can easily see what a half is. It's a benchmark. It's always sitting there. When you see something that half of it's gone, you can usually tell half. Our benchmark multiplication are those doubles that I tell you about. The 6 times 6 and the 4 times 4 and things like that. If you can remember those doubles, they'll help you. I have a song for doubles. There's a song for doubles in the musical multiplication memorization videos. So look at that double song too. That helps me remember all my double facts. That way, if I get up to something like 9 times 8, oh, I can't remember that off the top of my head. That one's a hard one for me. So, but I know 8 times 8, that's 64. So I already know my double. That's my benchmark fraction. So I have 64 in my brain. That's one I was able to memorize and one I can remember. 8 times 8 is 64. Now I just need to add one more 8 to do my repeated addition, because technically this is 8 8s added together. If I want 8 times 9, I just need to add one more group. So I'm going to add that 8 to it. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 6, 7. So 9 times 8 is 72, and that's correct. If you double check me, it is. This is another way you can use knowing your benchmark fraction. I keep saying fraction. I'm sorry, guys. Knowing your benchmark multiple. Benchmark just means it's something you can remember. So using my benchmark multiple and adding one more. I remember my double is 8 times 8, 64. So I don't have to go through the trouble of repeatedly adding all those 8s when I already know 64. I just only have to add one 8. So again, guys, the more you practice these multiplication strategies, the more you do those multiplication problems, the easier these will come, because those numbers aren't changing. They've been the same and they'll continue to be the same. So the more you do it and the more you see them in front of you, the more you'll memorize them and they'll just come nice and easy and quick. The last thing I'm going to do in this video is kind of teach you how to make your own multiplication chart at home real quick. So hold on one sec. I'm going to get my materials and be right back to help you make that multiplication chart. All right. The only thing you're going to need for this, guys, is a marker or pencil, pen, anything, and a piece of paper. First thing you're going to do, put down your pen. Grab your piece of paper. You're going to fold it in half like a hot dog. Hot dog fold that paper just like that, and then hamburger fold it right on over so it's in 4 pieces. I know you've done this before. I'm sure you can do it. So now when I open it up, I've got 4 squares on my paper. I'm going to draw some black lines on those. You should do the same so you can see it a little bit better. Ta-da! Like this. Once yours looks like that, you're going to take your time drawing 4 lines, equally spaced. Remember those fractions? We like it to be equal. 4 lines on the top here in this box. So I'm going to do, and see, I made them as even as I possibly could. I just eyeballed it, guys. It doesn't have to be perfect, but do your best. So 4 lines there, and you're going to draw them all the way down, just like so. Then flip your paper over and do the same thing again, just on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Evenly spaced lines as even as possible and draw them down. Now you should have a paper that looks like this. What we have to do now is flip it long ways. And we're going to continue to draw 4 lines, guys. Same thing. 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. Draw them straight down. Do the same thing over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. As even as you can. 4 lines on each side of that and draw them straight down. Now your grid should look like this. Flip it over this way and you should start seeing where I mean it looks like a multiplication table. We're going to fill in our numbers. I just filled in mine. Notice there's no 0 column in our chart. I started with 1 at the top and went all the way across to 10 and 1 over here and all the way down to 10. Anything times 1, guys, is itself. So 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 4 is 4. I didn't think we needed to put that column in. I hope not. So make sure you fill these in when you do the boom cards.